at me and tell me what you see. I look at you and tell you what I feel. Look at me and tell me what you see. I look at you and tell you what I feel. I've died 1,000 times to be reborn in the fire.
Welcome back to the Boondock Saints, with the second film in the series, All Saints' Day. When we last left off, the brothers went into hiding with their father due to the incredibly public murder of a mob boss. Will that stop them from going kill crazy in ridiculously overblown fashion? Nah! This is the Boondock Saints 2, All Saints' Day. The film opens with narration from Rocco, the brother's friend from the last film, looking and sounding much older than previously. Dying hasn't retarded the aging process much. Also, he doesn't say anything important here, just stuff about talkers and doers, and it's the doers that get things done. I'm not really seeing the profoundness of his statement, cause there's obviously a difference between, hey, I'm gonna make a cake, to, hey, I just made a cake. We then shift to Ireland where the brothers are living a rural life with their father, who they seem to have modelled their own facial hair on. Il Duce takes over the narration and tells how the brothers almost forgot their past, but something is now calling them back, which, as luck would have it, is when a priest shows up to tell them something bad has happened. Returning to Boston, a man with Boston embossed on the back of his head stands outside a church. The unknown man takes a priest and kills him, leaving pennies in his eyes, just like the brothers did, and we then get more information on the man who was shot.
Did they release his name?
No, but I made a few calls. I still have friends in the diocese there. McKinney. Father Douglas McKinney. You knew him?
I love that scene, because it honestly feels like the father character was cut out of the first movie. Because the way the brothers react to his murder, and the way his name is slowly revealed, we're supposed to be, not him! But in reality, I'm like, who? Was he important? However, the brothers immediately suit up, and Il Duce agrees with the priest that somebody is trying to frame the brothers, and call them out, leading into a pretty badass moment.
Someone thinks it's really clever. Only one problem with his little plan was that it worked.
Yep, that was pretty badass, and shows why I think Billy Connolly plays the character so well. We then get a montage of the brothers getting their equipment, and arse, and cutting their hair and beards, and also arse. So I'm sure that pleased somebody. And back in the house, the brothers' plan is clear.
Every last motherfucker that had anything to do with it.
It's interesting that this film is less about the brothers' God-given mission to punish the wicked, and more about plain and simple revenge. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was made that way, because audiences found the whole crusade thing a tad alienating. Revenge is a much more evergreen topic, giving the brothers' motivations a more personal drive. And in the church, the three cops from the first film are freaking the fuck out. Not so much about whether the brothers carried out the killing, but how this will be linked back to their involvement 8 years ago. Their arguing is cut short since the FBI working the case is on the way, but outside they agree to play the situation coolly and calmly, sticking together on this. Oh no! An attractive woman! We all know that men are completely powerless to defend themselves against them! These men can't do anything now! And yeah, the cops start acting like horny teenagers when the FBI agent, Special Agent Bloom, asks about the case. Julie Benz is a good actress, but in this film, firstly, she has an atrociously put-on southern accent. But also, she plays the character, who's basically a female smecker, incredibly confidently, but goes over the line and just becomes arrogant and condescending, making her character really irritating to watch. For example...
Special.
Excuse me?
You see, there's a special before my agent. If we're gonna address each other formally, I'd appreciate if you popped it in there, because it makes me feel special.
Yeah. Back with the less annoying brothers, they're hitching a ride on a cargo ship, and the entertainment on board seems to be set up like Fight Club. The fight organisers explain why one of the fighters has his hands chained up. It's because he's that good, and his opponent needs to last 5 minutes against him. The man who's chained, Romeo, is shown to be a big, badass, competent fighter, but after this introduction, he'll basically be the Rocco replacement and comic relief for the film, and not a very entertaining one to say the least. As you might expect, Romeo ends up winning his fight by arguably cheating and releasing his hands somewhat, and choking the guy into unconsciousness. But hey, we're supposed to know how badass he is anyway. We return to the crime scene where Agent Bloom, Special Agent Bloom, has gone all Will Graham on us, surveying the scene in silence. And once she's figured out the killer's design, she removes her earplugs and tells the cops that it wasn't the brothers' doing, talking the crime over with them. She mentions the killer is one man and short, demonstrating this by first putting one of the cops at crotch height with her, which I'm sure was necessary, and explains the killer put 2 guns to the priest's head, because instead of exiting the eyes like the way the brothers kill, the exit wounds were lower on the priest's face. Which, firstly, is just a recreation of the scene in the first film when Smecker figures out that it was 2 shooters of identical height. However, also, Bloom is incorrect. Because the exit wounds were lower on the priest's face, that would mean the killer had a higher angle of trajectory, indicating that he was taller than the brothers, not shorter. If he was the size that Bloom mentioned, then the angle of trajectory would be straighter and higher on the priest's face. The only thing that gives credence to Bloom's theory is that when the killer kicked in the confessional, he left a shoe indentation, showing they were lifted. But that's really all she's got. It's not the best idea to illustrate how insanely smart your detective is by showing us how wrong she can be. Back on the ship, the brothers hear on the news of a man who inexplicably escaped jail time, and it gets the brothers' full attention when they hear the man was one Concesio Iacovetta, the son of the mob boss they killed at the end of the last film. We then see the mobsters as they hold a meeting, all of whom are angry at Iacovetta for killing a priest and bringing the brothers back to Boston. Iacovetta reminds them of his father's public execution.
8 years ago, these vigilante fucks put my father on his knees and executed him in public. Mi padrino.
Even though he calls his father mi padrino, which is Godfather, so I don't think even he knows who he's talking about. Well, anyway, Iacovetta angrily convinces them the brothers need punishment for the humiliation they caused. Also, Iacovetta says this.
And this time, they don't catch us with our pants down.
Please remember that, as it'll emphasize how stupid he is later on. Back on the ship, Romeo approaches the brothers for a celebratory drink. However, they don't notice him as Murphy is busy tattooing Connor, and they're talking about how honestly stupid it was that they cut their beards and hair, as it would have made them easier to blend in. Murphy suggests dyeing their hair blonde, and of course, Connor starts making fun of him, calling blonde a gay colour. Yeah, that's another thing about this film. There's many a time when something is called gay, or the word fag is used, without any sense of irony, which is just the epitome of school children calling things gay as some kind of pathetic insult. Murphy is angry enough to literally stab Connor in the back as they fight, knocking over their container of pennies, which shows Romeo the brothers are the saints, and he starts fangirling over them. So the brothers act like they're gonna shoot him in the head, but they're just fucking with him, which is pretty much a recreation of a similar scene from the original with Rocco. At the police station, Bloom explains the evidence of the case to the chief, and with all the facts pointed away from the brothers, the chief wants the press involved to help calm people down. But Bloom has other ideas as they talk in private, and while they do, the 3 cops are panicking some more that they'll be discovered, which won't matter soon anyway. Bloom tells the chief that they need to keep the evidence a secret for now to make sure that Iacovetta doesn't know they're onto him, which is a misdirection on Bloom's part that will be revealed later. We then move back to the brothers being driven in Romeo's car, which is an overblown, gaudy, lit-up car that's exactly the opposite of something you ride in when you're wanted for murder. See, I told you he's the comic relief. All 3 get to one of Iacovetta's drug warehouses as they go over the plan to take them all out, and the plan is shown to us in a ridiculous 60s style manner. Maybe this is a glimpse into how the brothers see the world, as a crappy fantasy world of grainy cliché. So obviously the brothers' fantasy plan goes off without a hitch, and they're all fired up. Romeo requires a gun, and the brothers reluctantly give him one.
Can I consider myself your girlfriend too?
Oh, he's got a small gun! That must mean he's gay or a woman! Can we grow the fuck up, please? And stop all this playground childish crap? No, of course not. But much like the last film, we then witness the aftermath of the brothers' plan as the cops investigate. One of them comes to the conclusion, or rather hopes, that this crime wasn't the brothers' doing, which Bloom, after her bout of Wilgramming the scene, finds out that it was indeed the brothers, as we shift back to the plan in action. Yes, they're doing the skipping back and forth thing again. However, there are a few saving graces here. First, they only do it twice, really. But more importantly, it doesn't confuse the fuck out of you. So hey, at least they learned from their mistakes this time. Even though they're using the narrative device here because the first movie did it. So it's ultimately pointless, but it's a silver lining for now. And the plan doesn't really go as well as the fantasy did. Firstly, by Romeo not being able to knock out the forklift driver, so Connor is forced to tell him to piss off. And then while the brothers are in the crate, Romeo drives the forklift like an idiot. And the brothers start fighting again because Murphy hates Connor's plan. Which is again just a recreation of a scene in the first film when the brothers use an air vent. You know, I'm not seeing much original material here. It just seems to be the same slightly tweaked scenes done badly. However, just like the previous film, after Romeo drops the crate, breaking it open, the brothers immediately jump out, completely unharmed, running dick first into victory, taking out all the drug dealers and then executing the leader, in their iconic fashion. After that badly executed plan, all three return to the old bar and meet up with their Tourette-suffering friend and barman. Is his Tourette still considered a big joke, I wonder?
This is our Mexican.
Nice to meet you, lad. They call me Fuck Ass.
How you doing, fuck ass? I'm Romeo.
Yeah, keep it classy, Boondocks 2. The three are shown into the bar's back room where we get a drunken montage, with an included bizarre game Connor plays with the barman.
Would somebody please come over here and fuck me up the ass? Yes, that's what he done. That's what he done every time. I took it down, old man. I took it down.
Again, wonderfully classy. Yet, despite the stupidity and attempted comedy of the previous scenes, the movie suddenly gets inexplicably serious as hell, as we focus on Il Duce sitting alone in his Irish cabin. That's something else as well. Il Duce, as I'll call him, isn't actually referred to by that name in the film, which honestly makes sense because the mob gave him the name Il Duce, so you can see why he wouldn't want to go by that anymore. But I'll call him that for simplicity's sake. Il Duce notices a pin from where he's sitting, leading him into a flashback to 1958 and his job in a leather factory. If he's 16, maybe 20 here, and we add on the years between then and now, so he's 70? Huh, he looks pretty spry for his age. Also, the tattoo on Il Duce's hand hasn't changed at all in all those years, which doesn't make much sense because it would have faded over time. The young Il Duce is talking with his boss when some men come into the factory to talk. Il Duce goes upstairs, and as his boss is brutally beaten to death, he sees it all from a window above. His friend and co-worker finds Il Duce with the body, who seems to be in a trance until he screams. Which is the incident that turned Il Duce into the killer he is. And you know, that is far more compelling than the brothers' reason to kill. And frankly, Il Duce is a far more interesting character than the brothers. I don't see why they couldn't have just not done this retread of a movie and given us a prequel of Il Duce. He is the only character we didn't get to know in the last film. But sadly, this isn't Il Duce's film, as we return to the gangsters who are holed up in their penthouse, complaining about the drug dealers who were killed. One of the guys patrolling the streets comes in to talk to Jacovetta, who is so paranoid he's created his own panic room. The scene is really just to establish the bad guys are gunning for the brothers, and that they're all in one place. Easy pickings for the brothers later. Romeo has taken the brothers to speak with his uncle, and it's incredibly convenient that he has connections with Jacovetta. Romeo's uncle tells them about Jacovetta's plans, and that the street criminal, Gorgeous George, knows where to find him. Then there's a little moment where the brothers tell Romeo's uncle that he's doing a good job for them, so his uncle is finally proud of Romeo. Which would be so heartwarming if I cared. And speaking of Gorgeous George, which is a huge misnomer by the way, is currently having a massage when Bloom comes in to take over from the masseuse. And because this place seems to be one of those massage parlours, Bloom uses a massive bat and smacks the guy on the arse, causing him to freak out. He's calmer when Bloom points a gun at him. And through various questions, Bloom tells the guy they know Yakavetta killed the priest and that everyone on the street, including George, are bait for the brothers. Which was another pretty pointless scene cause Bloom didn't get any information from him. So I think the entire reason was to just watch Julie Benn spank a guy. Back with Il Duce, who's still in his hut, we flash back to his younger self killing his boss's murderers, who are very stupid, cause the leader doesn't consider a gun a threat.
It was a fucking accident. We can work this out.
He ain't gonna do shit.
Sono suo amico.
Fuck him and fuck his friend. Deal the cards. He ain't got the balls. Shit.
Okay. This guy manages to sneak into a very small place, take 3 very dangerous men hostage without a scratch on himself, and you question whether he'll kill you. Does his gamble pay off, I wonder? No, of course not. And Il Duce even makes sure and watch the guy die slowly. And back in the present, Il Duce is cleaning his vest, specifically designed to hold many guns, preparing for action. And once again, all this stuff about Il Duce's past makes me wish we were watching that film instead of this one. But moving on, Romeo gets a call from his uncle telling him where to locate George, and they interrupt his tanning session when they arrive. Throwing him against the wall, they try to get some information out of him, first to find out who killed the priest, which George doesn't know, though he does tell them where Yakavetta is hiding. But more importantly, they get information on where all the street-level thugs are, and arrange for them to gather at Romeo's uncle's restaurant. Which is a huge setup for 2 big action scenes later in the movie, but this film seems to work by having the action scenes, or levels as they might be called, and in between you have the setup for said sequences, or cutscenes as they might also be called. Like a police investigation that won't even matter in, 5 minutes time. So yeah, this film is a video game that you watch, and not a particularly original one either, because the first film did it already and better. Back with the investigation, Bloom and the cops have hit a rut in the case with nothing new on the killer. They do find a single fingerprint on the priest, and Bloom spots potential evidence, hypothesizing the killer took his gloves off and stole the priest's rosary. I'm glad we got in close to see Julie Benn's chewed up wad of gum. We then flash back to the killer, first comparing his height to the priest, and then comparing his hand size, which angers him for some reason, leading him to taking the priest's rosary. Seriously, why is he pissed that he's so small? It's like they tried to give the killer a personality beyond this dude kills people, but they forgot to actually add any substance or even some fucking context. Elsewhere, the brothers have taken George to the gangsters' meeting place where everyone will show up, and once all the criminals have arrived, the brothers execute their plan. However, outside the place, our killer informs his boss that Il Duce isn't there, so his boss tells them to let the brothers kill the gangsters, and then kill them, as it'll bring Il Duce. Which is even more evidence to suggest that Il Duce is the most interesting character in this film. In fact, he's so much more interesting than the brothers that the big bad of the film is only concerned about Il Duce. The brothers are an active hindrance to the plot at this point. But anyway, the brothers commence their plan, even giving Romeo his own big boy gun now, and then they send George out on a trolley with Erengo Bragg painted on him, which means...
It's Irish, for you're fucked.
And all the bad guys are swiftly killed. We then see the exact same scene again, just in slow motion, cause it was so good the first time? I don't know. Also, I don't mean to correct the true Irish person that is Murphy, but doesn't Erengo Bragg mean island forever? Or more literally, island until eternity? Wouldn't that have been a much more badass statement and reaffirming their Irishness, rather than just adding another F-bomb into the mix that's so much white noise at this point? And to finish the killing spree, George asks to be let go, but Connor has other ideas, letting fate decide, playing a game of Russian roulette. But George wins his game and quickly gets the hell out of there. Luckily for him, since the killer appears when the brothers celebrate. But fortunately, Bloom shows up at the exact moments to fire back at the guy, hitting him, causing him to run off wounded. These brothers really are insanely lucky. The brothers quickly get Bloom to put down her gun, because they don't realise she just saved their arses. And then the secret is revealed.
The fuck are you?
My name is Eunice Bloom, and I'm your new guardian angel. torch was passed to me by a mutual friend.
A mutual friend? By the name of fucking who?
Paul Maximilian fucking Smecker.
Yes, the film is choosing now's the time, with 40 minutes left, to tell us that Smecker is dead. You know, that's a pretty big fucking deal, movie. You might have found a way to tell us that at the start, and it would have made Bloom's revelation that she's Smecker's successor in helping the brothers a bit more impactful. Giving us information is good for your story. Please learn that. Bloom uses her intelligence through her FBI and forensic knowledge to help the brothers by creating a crime scene where it appears the gangsters shot each other. Bloom then explains her fake crime scene to the other cops, which we see, for I guess shits and giggles, because the entire thing is fake and we know it's fake. Why do we need to see it, apart from wasting time? The cops tell Bloom that the fingerprint they found led to the guy they're looking for, who entered the country through a non-existent sponsor only 2 months after 9/11, meaning he somehow got through incredibly tight security, which is a pretty effective way of illustrating his boss is quite powerful. Bloom then takes the cops to the brothers' hideout bar, and once inside, the cops mistake Romeo for another agent and practically confess right there. Quite the loyal bunch. But that's when the brothers jump out and spray them all with water, so the cops are finally let in on the secret. Which also means that the police investigation is now completely null and void, serving neither use nor purpose. So that's great. Maybe we could have just skipped to this part and filled in the gap with more interesting stuff, like Il Duce's story. But no, again, we need to remind ourselves it's not his film, as we return to the killer who's having his bullet removed, in a really good effect. And he's worried that because he didn't kill the brothers, Il Duce won't come to Boston, but his boss reassures him he will. And elsewhere, Yakoveta is skeptical about the killer's boss, who's simply called the Old Man, clever naming convention there. Yakoveta realises that the Old Man set him up, as he finally comes out of his panic room to bark orders at people. The brothers are getting ready to attack the mobster's hideout, going to their local arms dealer again, who we still don't know anything about and why he willingly hands over everything for free to the brothers, giving them brand new silenced Desert Eagles, and Romeo picks out some specialised guns.
What?
Nothing.
What are you saying? I look gay?
No, you just hail from a colorful...
Hey, you don't know me. Do these make me look gay?
You look like you might have seen one up close.
Fuck you, movie. Fuck you and your childish, pathetic writing. Because you know what? Maybe people like these characters talk like that, but that doesn't make me want to like them. All it does is lower my personal opinion of them and the writer for trying to talk to the lowest common denominator and making an even worse statement than Smecker and his lover in the first film.
What a fag.
Next up, we shift to the crime scene we've yet to see take place at the mobster's hideout, making this the second and last time the movie does the skipping about shit. But again, doesn't make it anything more than a case of copying the previous film. However, there's a problem, as another FBI agent comes in to take over the investigation from Bloom, suspending her. Yeah, why is she suspended exactly? As far as that guy knows, all she's done is successfully explain 4 crime scenes. Yet despite this, Bloom insists on explaining what happened, so we see firstly how the cops help the brothers enter the building via the use of a laundry bin, while Romeo has a more low-key entrance by taking a janitor hostage. And because he's the comic relief, he asks his hostage for a cool one-liner. Because again, let's be honest, this film's a video game. And while he fucks about, the brothers are taking a window cleaning lift down to the penthouse, with Murphy obviously pissed off that once again Connor is insisting on using rope for his plan. And Connor pisses off Murphy even more when he admits that he got his plan from a movie. Was that movie The Boondock Saints? Because it sure as hell feels like this film is a poorly made parody of that one. And while Romeo continues with his painful attempt at comedy, the brothers swing down to the mobster's penthouse. And yeah, what did Yakoveta say?
And this time, they don't catch us with our pants down.
That's a fucking good plan, dickhead. So good, he's now being caught with his pants down, as the brothers come flying in through the window to shoot everyone in one fell swoop. Bloom is also there, copying the same scene from the first film where Smecker was in the flashback. This way is, of course, much more stupid, because after the brothers execute Yakoveta, Romeo gives us his one-liner.
In nomine Patri Filii, Vaffanculo, Spiritus Sancti.
Who ordered the whoop-ass fajitas? It's fucking stupid.
Completely retarded.
And then Bloom tells Romeo to use a one-liner referring to him breaking the door down.
Spiritu Santi.
Ding dong, motherfucker! Ding dong!
Fucking A.
You said it.
And this is why the film feels like a parody, because they're just taking old scenes and making them more stupid, frankly. And yeah, Romeo's one-liner was shit. Simple as that. Back to reality, Bloom is pleased with her assessment of the crime scene when she is suddenly grabbed and pulled into the panic room by the only guy to survive the shootout. The other cops think Bloom is in danger, but she already has the guy in an arm lock since she's the Smecker surrogate and incredibly capable. And the guy volunteers all the information he knows about the old man, since he's technically the big mob boss now. So he reveals the old man's plan, that he's been working to strengthen Iacovetta's mob. And the old man gets a second nickname of the Roman, because that tells us so much more about him. Bloom tells the other cops what she found, and they all agree that the brothers won't be stopping until they get their man, who just so happens to be hiding behind a fire hydrant watching. Okay, Bloom said he was short, but how the hell does a hydrant completely conceal him exactly? Oh, by the way, we seem to be getting into the last 20 minutes of the film here, and I wanted to clear something up. I think I'm being a bit unfair by saying this film is just copying the first one. Because let's be honest, if they really were doing that, there would be some kind of tragic death of a main character just randomly thrown in. But that's so forced to be almost laughable.
Psychomatic, I said!
Yeah, the killer comes back and takes out one of the cops while trying to kill the brothers. But the killer takes the bartender hostage, forcing the brothers to throw their guns away. But what about the cop who was shot? Is he gonna survive? How could this happen to such an essential character? Oh, the huge manatee! At least that would be my reaction. Again, if I cared. But anyway, hostage negotiations are cut short when Il Duce appears shooting the killer and allowing the bartender to get away. Il Duce asks the killer where the old man is, but when he doesn't get an answer, he loads a single bullet into two revolvers, and in a callback to the previous scene, they play a game of Russian roulette. Connor tries to stop it, but Il Duce tells him to back off as he continues to ask where the old man is, firing an empty chamber on the killer. The brothers start praying, at this point one of the few times they actually do, and Il Duce asks one last time, firing the gun and winning the roulette. Which honestly was an effective and tension-filled scene, because with Connor doing the Russian roulette thing before, it showed that sometimes the roulette ends in the criminal's favour, so there was legitimate, or at least the illusion of legitimate peril there. Plus, I can't dislike Billy Connolly in this, he's the best thing in it. After all the excitement, the brothers have a weird, incredibly out-of-place dream sequence where they talk to the dead Rocco, because they really needed his character to come back. Their conversation consists of Rocco informing the brothers his death wasn't their fault, nor the cops. And then they shift to a rooftop where they have a huge circle jerk about how great men they are. Also, there's this bit.
Real men hide their feelings. Why? Because it's none of your fucking business! Men do not cry. Men do not pout. Men jack you in the fucking jaw and say...
Thanks for coming out.
Yeah, men don't cry and talk about their feelings. That's for sissies. Real men have bizarre hallucinations about their dead friend where he still ends up consoling them like little babies. Go fuck yourself. Your idea of manly and macho is a fantasy and appeals to gender stereotypes rather than says anything actually poignant. In fact, it's so much of a fantasy, your own fucking characters do the exact opposite of what they say is manly. Which is truly pathetic. But after that stupid dream, Il Duce tells them about his past and how he was an unstable killer, but his friend at the time, Louis, tried to help him Dexter-style by directing his killings at gangsters and scumbags, giving Il Duce his iconic multi-holstered vest, as we see him use it to take out some more gangsters. Il Duce says that Louis did all the planning for this until Louis set him up, and he was then imprisoned. But Il Duce didn't do anything about it as Louis learnt of the birth of his two sons, and Il Duce can't wait to ask Louis why he set him up. Which again, if this movie was exclusively about Il Duce's past and him seeking answers and revenge on Louis for why he was set up, is a much more compelling story than Brothers Kill More Gangsters. We then see the old man, who is obviously Louis, requesting some armed men to guard him, as he knows that the brothers and Il Duce are on the way. And back in the police station, the agent who took over the case gets word that Bloom has taken files without them knowing, tipping him off that she's working with the brothers. And we indeed see her handing off the information on Louis' whereabouts to Il Duce. However, she can't stay and is going to hide out from the FBI in Costa Rica. See? Now he has a reason to suspend her. The brothers, Il Duce and Romeo, all get to Louis' residence, a run-down old mansion. But they don't go in all guns blazing. Il Duce goes in first to talk with the old man and finally get some answers, unaware that armed guards are secreted throughout the place, ready to attack. And before the action, Il Duce and Louis talk. Louis says that Il Duce is a destroyer and was born a destroyer. It's in his blood. Il Duce says he had his reasons, but Louis retorts, telling him about his sons.
You were not there to raise them. Not a single day. But how closely they follow their father's footsteps.
You know, he does have a good point. The brothers' actions are explained more through nature rather than nurture. And I know one shouldn't be agreeing with the big bad guy when he's making his climactic speech, but it's hard to argue with him. Downstairs, the brothers are also laying in wait. Now, why wouldn't the shotgun be loaded already? It may look fancy, but not very smart. But anyway, Louis reveals he used Il Duce to climb the mob's ranks and destroy the mob's competition, earning his place among them. But of course, Louis was useless to them without Il Duce and was cast out. So clearly, it was a really stupid idea to set him up then. But Louis manipulated the brothers and Il Duce again by bringing them to Boston and take out Yakavetta, so he can be the big head honcho again. Which would be a good plan, but let's be honest, I think Il Duce might have something to say about that. Yep, Il Duce just stands up and shoots like a madman at all the bad guys around the house. The brothers have started shooting as well, and even Romeo finally loads his shotgun. For a kind of cool action scene, I guess. The only problem with it is that it's completely silent. All we hear is the techno, not a single gunshot, which doesn't exactly involve your audience in the scene. However, there's a problem as Il Duce is shot and badly wounded, and the brothers are shot as well, but they do drag Il Duce back up to Louis for his final words.
I'll see you in a minute, Louis.
Leading to Il Duce's death as he talks about how beautiful it is before dying. See, now that is how you do a character's death right. Gets a badass last line against the bad guy, kills the bad guy, succeeds in his goals, and then dies heroically. Well, I guess hero is subjective. But still a badass end to a badass character, cementing my opinion that Il Duce is the best character in this film. After everything has finished, the brothers walk out of the house bloodied, letting themselves be arrested, throwing down their weapons. But before we find out what's happened to the brothers, we return to Bloom being assisted by the priest from the beginning to get her to a destination, which is a monastery. However, Bloom questions how the priest knew she needed help, and the priest reveals who's been helping him.
You ready to go? I hear they party pretty hard at that monastery.
Yes, Smecker, it turns out, isn't dead after all, which certainly emphasises how much of a badass he really was. But really, it just makes me wish he was here for the whole goddamn film, because he's better than Bloom. But let's finish this, shall we? Smecker tells Bloom that the brothers are in prison, but he plans to break them out and put them back to work, as we see the brothers recovering with Romeo in critical condition, as the brothers look out the window at all the criminals who want a piece of them, not really bothered by it all. And that's where the film ends, with a setup for a Boondocks 3 that will almost certainly never happen because Norman Reedus is off doing his own thing. And yes, some of the fans of the first film didn't like this film, and I can honestly see why. Boondock Saints 2 is, as I said previously, more of a retread parody of the first film than any kind of legitimate sequel, with the film not being able to resist just doing the same scenes again, just kookier. But this gets worse than that, because I honestly can't stand this childish playground mentality of using the word gay as an insult. And I know I might be focusing on that a bit too much, but the film practically does it constantly. Grow up, for fuck's sake. And let's not forget that about 80% of this film's plot is basically non-essential viewing, Because when you boil it down, this is Il Duce's story and Il Duce's film, which they should have embraced and made a better film. For every good part of this film, there's 2 bad parts, and that, on top of the retreading of the first, makes this film a crime. And you know what? If these films have taught me anything, is that when you see a crime, you punish the criminals. If you'll excuse me. And shepherds we shall be, for thee, my Lord, for thee. Power hath descended forth from thy hand. Our feet may swiftly carry out thy commands, and we shall flow a river forth to thee, and teeming with souls shall it ever be. In nomine Patris et Filii, et Spiritus Sancti.